How are you doing? Today is Tuesday, September 9th, and I am back with an update video. It's been a little over 2 months since I recorded my last one, so I hope you are all doing well and you are just stitching up a storm on all of your projects. If you're brand new to my channel, welcome. My name is Olivia, and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. So I would like to start off the video by apologizing for being gone for so long. I originally planned on recording an update video at the end of July for it to come out the beginning of August, and the day rolled around and I got to looking at what I had been working on during July and just couldn't justify recording a video. I was going to wait a couple of weeks and then do another, have another go at recording a video. And it just seemed like every group of days off that I had, I always ended up busy doing something else. There were a couple of projects that we did where instead of it taking a day or an afternoon, it took 3 days. So I've been, busy doing a lot of other stuff on my day off, and just really haven't had time to record a video. I am hoping now that we're in the burr months of the year to upload a video in October, November, and December. It's my favorite time of the year. So, I do change out my decor seasonally, and I just love it. I love showing it off. I love this time of year so very much. So I'm already, making plans to record that October video. I think a good starting off point for today's video would be to chat about progress. So these projects are ones that I have worked on over the past 2 months and have not yet finished. The first one is The Houses of Hawk Run Hollow by Carriage Samplings. I've been working on this one all year. I'm stitching this with my friend Yvette. We are almost done. August, we started block number 10. I was able to complete block 9 the very end of July, and I have to be honest, it's my least favorite block out of the whole group, but I was very excited to begin working on number 10. So what we do is we just kind of pick a halfway point each month, and we try to get the block done over 2 months. So if you have month number 1, you stitch half of the block, month number 2, you stitch the other half and then complete it. So in August, started block 10, did halfway, which was the cow and then the verse up above. And then this month I will start and complete the house. I loved working on this block. I love that sweet little cow. She is so adorable. Block 9, it definitely was not my favorite. I did a complete reboot of it, and I think I talked about it in my last video. The way it was charted, and I don't know if any of you guys have ever watched American Horror Story, but the first season of American Horror Story, that house, the block reminded me so much of that house, and I thought that my neighborhood was so serene and tranquil that it definitely did not need that house of horrors. So I sort of channeled the Midnight in the Garden of Good versus Evil. I think that's the name of the movie. It had John Cusack in it. I think it came out like in the 90s. I remember watching it, and I love that movie. I love the scenery, the houses, the spooky elements of it, even though I don't think it was meant to be spooky. It just kind of had that spooky vibe to it. So that's kind of what I was going for with my house. I think I nailed it. I like it, but again, it wasn't one of my favorite ones to work on. one thing I decided to do was, it had this big chunk of DMC black that you would stitch across the stars. I decided not to do that, you know, and I feel like I can get away with it because in the Halloween blocks, a lot of times, you know, they look just like this, where they've got a moon, a star, and an owl, but it's not like the background is, you know, fully stitched with a dark thread. So I figured I could get away with it. If at some point I feel differently, I might go back and stitch the black, but I doubt I will. I do really like how the whole thing is turning out. I just think my neighborhood looks so happy. So at the end of this month, I do hope to get that block number 10 done and then begin block 11 in October. So I'm excited to see this one done at the end of the year. I am stitching Houses of Hawker and Hollow on a piece of 40 count Heritage by Picture This Plus, and I'm using a variety of DMC threads, stitching at 1/2. This particular block, I don't think I changed out any of the threads. I pretty much kept what the called for DMC was, because when I pulled all the threads, it just looked so, they look so nice together, and they definitely had a very autumn vibe. And when I was pulling the threads at the beginning of August, I was so ready for autumn. So I just rolled with it. So we'll see how the house goes. I'll probably start working on it in the next couple of weeks and then hope to have block number 10 finished to show in my next video. I did have a new start, and this is one that I am also stitching with my friend Yvette. It is Away We Ride by Blackbird Designs. I've had this one kitted for a very long time, wanted to stitch it every single season, and I don't know how we got to talking about it, but I sent her a picture of it and she's like, let's go for it. So I assigned a little assignment and we just went for it. And I had a blast. I can't wait to get back to working on this. It was so much fun. So for the first assignment, I just said, let's do the 7, I don't even know what those little doodads are called. I don't know if they're acorns or, I don't know, but the 7 doodads in the border. And I, again, had such a blast working on this. I'm stitching it on a piece of 40 count Grandpa's Sleeve by XJU Designs, stitching it 1/2 with all of the called for. So I need to plot out our next assignment because I cannot wait to get back to this one. I hope to have it finished by next Halloween. These are the threads that I am using. So these are all the called for, just gorgeous, autumny, spooky Halloween colors. I love them. They're all my favorite Halloween colors. This is definitely my palette. When I decorate, it's very vintage, Victorian, primitive, 1940s. So these colors definitely make me very happy. In my last video, I was still working on Steward Hardman, and I was down to the very last little bit of assignment that had been assigned for that project before it was finished. And I was able to get her done at the very end of June. So right after I had recorded my video, it was either the next day or the day after that. So by the time the video had uploaded it, I already had Sarah done. And a lot of you guys wanted to know what project I would be replacing her with. And I started the Mary Bar Sampler by Stacy Nash. I have wanted to stitch this one for a very long time. If you watch Carol Saltbox Stitcher, it's usually one of the samplers that's kind of over her shoulder. So anytime a video of Carol's came out, I would just sit there and look at that sampler and think, why haven't I stitched that yet? So Yvette and I decided that when we finished Sarah, we would start working on Mary Bars. Roberta from Sable Stitchers is also joining us in stitching Mary Bars. So I'm super, super excited to finally be working on this one. I did originally start it on a piece of 40 count Vintage Country Mocha back in June of 23. I only stitched, you know, one little portion of the border and realized that the linen wasn't going to work for the project. And it's very surprising because if you've ever worked with vintage country mocha, it's kind of like the gold standard. Everything you stitch on it looks amazing. And I think a lot of it had to do with, I'm planning on personalizing this one for my paternal grandparents, and it had to be perfect. And I felt like the thread and the linen, there was just too much blending, and I was just very critical. Just so you know, this is gonna have a little bit of a story to it. So what happened was a few months before we finished Sarah, Yvette and I knew we were going to be working on this one together, and I still needed to find a piece of linen. So I contacted my friend Christine, Hollis Hands Creates. She's so wonderful about, recommending linen and threads. So I asked her what she would recommend, and she said she would just go with the called for parchment. So that's what I did. I ordered a piece of 40 count parchment linen from her. It came in the mail. And then I also knew I was going to need to catch up to where Yvette had, because she had started working on Mary prior to that. And so she was at a certain point, and I needed to get to that point so that way when August rolled around, I could then, no, September was the first month. I'm so mixed up. This is what happens when you don't record videos back to back. So in August, was it in August? Yes, it was in August. We took July off. So we finished Sarah in June, took July off. And then in August, I was gonna have to catch up to where Yvette was. And so was Roberta. So both Roberta and I needed to catch up to where Yvette was. And then this month, we would have our first assignment, which we kept it super easy. So here's my progress. So Yvette had all this border done, these motifs right here, and then September, we stitched these two. Those are the ones I assigned. So I was able to complete my assignment last night. And I love this piece so very much. I can't wait to see it come to life. And I'm going to be stitching this for my paternal grandparents, Mary Ann Kerpika and William Frederick Leimbach Jr. So I'm trying to stitch grandparents, great-grandparents, and great-great-grandparents. So anytime I'm personalizing any sort of a sampler, that's always what I am hoping to do, because my thought is that someday when these get passed down through the generations, those who end up with them will obviously love them, and then they'll begin asking the question of where they came from. And I hope that these are conversation starters for them, and then they can go in and learn about who their people are. These are the threads that I'm using. They're pretty scraggly looking because I've started working on the sampler, and some of this came from other projects that I had finished and been hanging out in my scrap bin or my stash bin. So yes, looking forward to returning to Mary Bars next month, and then just slowly watching her come to life over however long it takes. I do have some finishes to show. The first one is Heart and Hand, and it comes from Notforgotten Farms. It was part of the January, February, March 2016 Little Stitches Handwork Club. And this was one, I saw a finish of it on Pinterest, and I took a screenshot of it because there was no information about who the designer was. And I took a screenshot, posted it in my Instagram stories, and Lori from Notforgotten Farms sent me a message within like 5 minutes and said it was hers. So I immediately dropped everything and went and purchased it. Such a fun little small to work on. My plan at some point is going to be to try to find some sort of either an oval antique frame or an oval box, or some sort of unique way to finish it. I did leave off Friend at the top. I might stitch it if what I find is big enough, but I decided to leave off the Friend for now in case what I did find was smaller. So it'll just kind of depend on what I come across, what inspires me. So I stitched Heart and Hand on a piece of what I think is a 40 count. It's something from my stash that was cut off of another project. I don't know the name of it. I think it's a Seraphim fabric, but again, I'm not sure. I did stitch it with the called for DMC, and I stitched it 1/2, and it was such a fun, fast project. And I do hope to get this one fully finished really soon, but I think it might take a trip to the antique store to find something. The next finish I have comes from the 2024 Fall Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher magazine. It was designed by Teresa Miller and is called Primitive Pumpkin. So I just recently got a subscription to Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher magazine. I had one, I think back in like 2018, 2019, and ended up not renewing my subscription because I hadn't stitched anything out of it. But lately I've been seeing more and more projects stitched from it that call my name. This one was one of them. My friend Yvette actually is the one that helped me locate where it was because I had saw it on Pinterest, and I sent her a message and she's like, hey, I know where that one's at. And so I ended up getting a subscription. So I started stitching it last week, and I think it took me like 3 or 4 days. I worked on it in the evenings after work, and I finished it. And I love it. So I stitched this one on a piece of 36 count, I think, cream brulee. I remember it was the bottom of a piece of linen. Something with the dye here wasn't quite right. So when I stitched whatever I stitched this on, I remember turning it over and stitching it on what would technically be the back side of the piece of linen, because of, I just remember it was kind of like, it was like when they had hung it up to dry, you could see kind of where it had been like hung up, and that's kind of where the dye ended up. And yeah, it was just kind of a funky piece of linen. I liked it. I thought it looked, I mean, it worked really well for the project that I had used it for. And so this is the bottom. And I, again, think it is cream brulee, but I'm not sure. So I did stitch it with over-dyed threads. The original project was done with Weeks Dye Works and then Valdani threads, and I did not have any of the Valdani threads, and I decided instead to go into my stash and kind of find something that I thought would work. So for the pumpkin, I picked out Weeks Dye Works Sweet Potato, and for the vine, it was Weeks Dye Works Oscar. And I was kind of going for sort of like that, I wanted, so this is going to be something that'll stay up through the autumn season. And because both Halloween and Thanksgiving / autumn and November is done with a lot of these colors, like this is kind of my color palette for November, I decided I wanted my pumpkin to kind of reflect both. Because even when I decorate for November and it's Thanksgiving / autumn, I still kind of keep it like primitive vintage. And so a lot of the stuff that I put out is this color. So I thought it would go well with not only Halloween, so it'd be that nice bright pop of color against all of like the, you know, black and gray, but that when it transitions over into November, it'll still be a nice little pop of color with everything else. My next finish is Happy Jack by Tina Woltman. So this is one that has been on my want to stitch list for a long time. I first found it on Pinterest, and for a while Tina's patterns were only available on the secondary market. She had a picture trail shop, I think it was called Picture Trail, and I don't know if it was Yahoo or Google was the one that owned the rights to the picture trail, but it ended up going away. And so she had closed up shop. And I remember kicking myself for months afterwards for not purchasing Happy Jack, because every time I went on Pinterest, because I'm a pumpkin lover and I gravitate towards pumpkin, it was almost always popping up on Pinterest taunting me. And so for a couple of years, you know, I'd heard through the grapevine that, you know, she was going to open up a new shop. And so I just kind of held out hope that she would. And fairly recently, I want to say, I don't know if it was at the beginning of this year, if it was last year, but she opened up shop again, and I was so thrilled. And of course, this was the first one I bought. And the way Tina's shop works, she's on Instagram at, I think it's 1815 Early American, or Early American 1815. I will scroll the correct information. I'll also put the correct information down in the description box. But she's on Instagram, she's on Facebook. I think Facebook, she's under her name, Tina Woltman, so you can send her a friend request. She separated everything out into albums, and you just go in, you know, have a piece of paper, jot down the ones that you want, and then you email her, and she'll send you a PayPal invoice, and then gets them out in the mail to you. And I remember I think I bought it like on a Monday, and I had it by that Friday. So the shipping was super, super quick. But I love Tina's patterns so much, so my aesthetic. And so of course I had to stitch this one. And here is my finish. And I love how he turned out. So very vintage, which I love. It definitely screams like old-timey Halloween, which I love. One small change I made, actually two small changes. So the first change was to the stem. It was a mistake. I read the wrong symbol, or I read the wrong color for the symbol. And so I stitched the stem in, you know, the khaki color instead of what it should have been, which was darker. And I didn't realize it until after I finished it. So I wasn't going to rip him out. I just went and back stitched the stem so it showed up a little bit better. And then for his mouth, I decided I wanted to change the color and sort of give him that glowy orange look that you always see in, you know, vintage Halloween photos, and, you know, even the little pumpkins and stuff that they used to make to sell always had a glowy little grin. So for the mouth, I use DMC 3852, and I love it. So I cannot wait to get this one finished. I'm having a hard time deciding about if I want to frame it or if I want to finish it into a small, because I can see it done both ways and I can see how I would display it, but I can't decide which way to do it, because I don't want to do it one way and then regret that I did it that way and now I can't change it, if that makes sense. I'm leaning towards framing it, and so that's probably going to be the way I go. I just need to find the right frame. But I could change my mind in a week and decide to finish it into a little small, so we'll see. But loved working on this one so much. It's all DMC threads. I'll put Tina's email down below, but I also will link her Instagram and her Facebook. So that way, if you have either or, it should take you directly to her Instagram or her Facebook, and then you can look through her photos. And again, you just, you know, send her an email. She's always so quick to respond. And love Happy Jack. I'm so happy that I have him done. It's just one of those ones where a long time I've wanted to stitch it, and I'm just so happy that he's done now. In my excitement, I'm not sure if I mentioned what I stitched Happy Jack on, 36 count Oaken. My next finish is one that I started back in June of 2023, put it away, picked it up again in 2024 with the intent on finishing it before the 4th of July. Stitched on it for a few days and immediately noticed that I had made this spectacular mistake in the flag. I decided the flag needed to be super duper long. And like when I say I miscounted spectacularly. I mean, it was ridiculous. The flag, so, you know, the flag is just this big, and I was way down here and I was way over here, and there was no way to fix it. There was just no way to fix it. And I actually was kind of glad, because I did not like the linen that I had chosen, so it gave me a good excuse to abandon the project and restart it. So I restarted it immediately on a piece of 40 count Thyme Goes By Seraphim, And I also decided to go in and change all of the colors to ones that are a little bit more my aesthetic. And I put it away, picked it up again this year for Christine Hollis Hands Creates her summer sale. I think it was, I don't know why I can't remember this, Hollis Summer Stitching, Hollis Summer Sale. I'll put it down below. I don't know why I can't ever remember it. This is what happens when you don't do a video for 2 months. So I picked it up again that way. It gave me a good excuse to work on it. Christine's sale was so much fun. I was able to get a couple of Patriotic projects done, so I was really super happy. So it gave me that motivation to finish. So I finished this the beginning of August, I believe. And I love how it turned out so much. I can't wait to get it framed and have it hanging next year for the 4th of July. All of the colors just play so well together. I did make a big old boo-boo right here. This is actually supposed to be green, and for whatever reason, I stitched it in that sort of cheddary gold color. I don't know. I don't know what was happening. I don't know how I misread the color. Maybe it was just my brain. I just wanted to stitch up a cheddar flower. I don't know, but I messed up. And I think it looks great. I mean, nobody noticed, so that's good. I mean, now, of course, everybody will know that I made that mistake. But when I posted the picture, nobody noticed that I had made a boo-boo. So I'm very glad. My last finish is Sarah Steward Hardman Needlework Press. I know I went out and pulled her chart earlier today. I had it with everything. Can't find it. I know it's most likely going to be in the most obvious of places that I will find as soon as I'm done with today's video. But here's my finish. So I finished Sarah at the end of June. So it was right after I did my last video. I was down in a corner when I recorded my video, and then I was able to finish her before my video even uploaded. So super happy to have her done. I stitched this with my friend Yvette, and I think we started this after we finished Elizabeth Furness, I think. I know I've been working on her for a while, and our assignments have ranged from a little bit to a lot, and it was just she was such a joy to stitch on. I loved her. So I stitched her for my maternal great-great-grandmother. I have Martha Angeline Maxon's treadle sewing machine. It's right across the room. So I definitely knew that I needed to stitch a sampler just for her, because my hope is that as the treadle sewing machine is passed down through the generations, this will accompany it. That way, whoever does end up with it will know who Martha is. And I think Martha is pretty awesome. And I know I kind of briefly mentioned this a little bit, but Martha had lived with my great-grandparents when my grandma was little. And her and my grandma share a birthday. So there's several pictures where my grandma and Martha are with their cake. And she lived with them. I think she died in 1952. So she lived with them for a long time before her passing. But my great-great-grandfather, I think he outlived her. She didn't want to live with him once the children were grown and gone because he was never around. She basically raised the children by herself because he was off doing Lord knows what. And kind of sounded a little bit like a deadbeat. And I hope I don't get in trouble for saying that. I really didn't press my grandma for too many details, but you could tell that I don't know if she really cared for him. I don't know. I should press her for it a little bit and kind of find out what her feelings are towards him. So when I was stitching Martha's sampler, I didn't want to put him on it. They are buried together. She's buried in Yakima. She died here in Jervis in 1952. But I think the reason why she's buried in Yakima is because that's where her daughter is buried. And so it was just natural that she wanted to go be there, and then he's buried with her. And I don't know if that's something that they decided to do when she died or if they had decided to do that before. I don't know, but I just know that she didn't kind of sound like she didn't want anything to do with him because of the fact that, he was never around, which I get it. I mean, I get it. I mean, you're raising your children. I think somebody had mentioned that when they lived in Oklahoma, they lived in a sod house. So there she was in Oklahoma, alone, raising her children while he was off doing God knows what. Anyway, so when I did her sampler, I knew I just wanted to put her on it, none of his information. And then, of course, this is going to go with the treadle sewing machine when I pass it down to my granddaughter, because it goes from granddaughter to granddaughter. So it was Martha's, she gave it to my grandmother, and then my grandmother gave it to me, and then I'll give it to my oldest granddaughter if I'm lucky enough. Otherwise, it'll go to Allison. But anyway, so happy to have Martha sampler done. I need to find a frame for it. I haven't quite decided what I want to do, but even still, there's another part. There's a shelf that I want to build, and that's where this is going to go, is up on that shelf, because I want to have a picture of her with it. And so there's still other stuff that I have to do before then. So this one I'm not in any hurry to get framed, and I know when the time is right, I'll find the perfect frame for her sampler. And because once again I forgot, I stitched Steward Hardman on a piece of 36 count Vintage Buttercream by Lakeside Linens, and I used the Classic Colorworks conversion that is listed in the chart, and I stitched it 1/2. I love her. I love her so much. I'm so happy to have her finally done. One thing I did up here was I put her year of birth, and I kept the verse the same as the one that was charted. So the only thing I did is underneath the verse there was, you're supposed to stitch Steward Hardman's name. I took all of that out so I could stitch my great grandmother's name, date of birth, date of death. I have been working on a couple of other projects. The first one is one that I recently finished. It took way longer than it should have, but that's just kind of the way things go for me these days. This is from Buttermilk Basin, and it's called Sweet and Simple Through the Year, November. I was on a break and I was flipping through Pinterest, and this popped up. And I've been kind of wanting to try my hand at wool applique. I see it a lot on Instagram and Facebook. It always looks like a lot of fun. And I have a couple of smaller, like partial kits that I would like to try to finish, but I've never done it before. So I thought maybe if I tried my hand at something small, I'd kind of get the hang of it. And so I love pumpkins. November's my birth month. So I decided to, purchase it as a kid. I think it was like $21-ish, $5-ish. It wasn't terrible. I think with shipping and handling, it was under $30. And here is my finish. So I just finished this one the other night. The fusible part of it, I got it all fused down, and then it was just kind of waiting for me to have time to get back to it and finish it, and I finally did. I learned a lot. I did make a lot of mistakes. Luckily, I was able to correct the mistakes, and nobody's ever going to know but me. But I had a lot of fun doing this. So I definitely want to get to the two projects that I do have that, they're just kind of like partial, not really a lot of instructions, but I feel like now I can kind of use this one as a reference and then kind of tackle those and get those done. So I loved working on it. It was a lot of fun, and I would like to try to maybe down the road tackle another project. But I have some projects that I need to finish first. Some applique projects that I need to get finished first before I even think about it again. But I had a lot of fun, and again, November is my birth month. Pumpkins are my favorite, so I really loved working on this one. And if you're interested, I'll put a link down below. Buttermilk Basin, Sweet and simple through the year. So it's a 12-month. Each month has its own little separate design. And I want to say there was like 2 series. But this is the one that I saw that I fell in love with and had to get. I'm so glad I did. Speaking of applique, I did manage to get block number 3 in the Raven quilt done by Blackbird Designs. This was a goal I had set for myself, saying that I was going to get it done by Halloween. It's not going to happen this year, maybe next year. So I worked on block number 3. I got all the pieces done, was in the process of putting them down when I realized that I had swapped all of the blocks the wrong way. So my bird's actually facing the wrong way. But I'm gonna roll with it. There was no way at all that I was gonna start over again, and no. I just decided to roll with it. One of the other blocks I'll flip the wrong way, so that way I can make mine look intentionally wonky. But I do love how it turned out. I also played around a little bit with color because I decided that I wanted my house in the middle to be teal. So I wanted to introduce some teal elements to it, which is why I decided to go with a teal can. And then there's one other block where I'll put teal in there as well. So I like how it turned out. It definitely has sort of that, I don't know what you want to call it. It's definitely like my type of Halloween. That's the vibe. But I do like how it turned out. I think when it comes to like the points, some of them were great, like on the bird's beak. I think the bird's beak turned out pretty decently, but then the star, the points were a little off. But I feel like I might have kind of figured out what to do. We'll see. Now I am hoping between now and the end of the year to get 2 more blocks done, because I really would like to end the year and be on this middle block and have it done, and then that way I just have 4 to go and then the rest of the quilt to put together. But we'll see. I can't believe how long it took me to get just this last block done. A lot of it just was poor time management and then other stuff going on too. But if I can get 2 more blocks done by the end of the year, that would be great. I do know that you can either pre-order this or it's available now as a quilt kit. I haven't really researched it too much. I just saw it pop up here and there when I was searching for other projects, but you can buy it kitted. So definitely go check it out. It's called the Raven Blackbird Designs. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing it. I just need to get to it. The applique method that I am using is the applique method, and you can buy all the tools and the papers from Olivia B's Etsy shop, Hillside Rookery, and I'll put a link to her Etsy shop down below. Had to take a little bit of a break. It was good that I did, because although I thought I had retained all of the information, I had not. So I'm glad that I took the break and looked up the correct information. In June, I got my first block in a block of the month that I joined back in April. Deborah had sent me the information. I'm so glad that she did, because I would have hated to miss out on this one. This quilt is being done out of Carolina Legacy fabric by Joe Morton, which I believe is a re-release of a prior collection. It's beautiful. If you're able to see it in person, it's gorgeous. I love all the different pieces of this fabric line, and at some point I would love to be able to get bits and pieces of it. But the first block came out in June, and I finally got the first block put together. I only have 3 more to go. Month 4 just came in the mail yesterday, so I'm horribly behind. Not something that I wanted to have happen, but that's just the way my cookie's been crumbling lately. I have month number 2 cut out, and I just need to assemble. Month number 1 was the center motif here, and here it is. I love it. I really do love this, and I can't wait to get the whole entire quilt complete. The fabric line is gorgeous. Carolina Legacy Block of the Month was designed by Sarah J, and she's also the one that did Block Bonanza, and so the version of Block Bonanza that I did was out of the Rose fabric collection. I think that was Joe Morton's final fabric line that she released before she retired, and so I'm so super happy that she's really re-releasing her older fabric lines. I'm hoping other designers will do that too. But I love this one, and again, there are pieces of it that I definitely want to get some yardage of, and maybe even get a fat quarter bundle, because I'd love to be able to just kind of put it in my stash, and then as the years go on, sprinkle it throughout all of the different quilts that I hopefully will make. The block of the month I don't think is available. There was a sign up period. I want to say it was like from March, and then the final sign-ups, you had until like the end of May and then to sign up. So I don't know if any other shops are participating in the block of the month, but mine is coming from Prairie Point Quilts, and I want to say they are out of Kansas, and please correct me if I'm wrong. But this is what the quilt is going to look like, and I cannot wait to have the whole quilt put together. It's going to be 90 by 90 when it's done, so it's going to be about the same size as Black Bonanza. All right. Because it's been a while since I have uploaded a video, the Fat Quarter Shop has sent me several packages of items that are available now on their website, and I will put a link to the Fat Quarter Shop's website down below. First item they sent me is Be in My Bonnet Stitch Cards by Lori Holt, set Y. These ones are so cute. They sent me 6-inch vintage Milkmaid Star. This is quilt block foundation paper. Today is the day. So this is like to-do, appointments, water, fitness, notebook. The 12-inch vintage Milkmaid Star quilt block foundation paper. I love that block. A quilt pattern by Lori Holt called Gentle Flock. One called Cherish by Lori Holt. A cross stitch pattern by It's So Emma called Roses. Quilt designed by Kim Deal called Home for the Holidays. I love this. I mean, look at this big giant star. Love it. Love Kim Deal. Cross stitch pattern by It's So Emma called Sweet Summer. Lovely ladybugs. This is part of the Penny Farm series by Kim Deal called Hip Hop Mogul. Asters. Bee Bonnet Stitch Card Set Z. So this one is a stitching theme, which I love. Cosmos. A cross stitch pattern called Quilt Star House by Lori Holt. Be Sweet Ornaments by It's So Emma. A quilt designed by Kim Deal called Bushels and Peck. Love, 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 love. This is a cloud stitchy board. So this would be a magnetized board where you could attach your charts, needle minders to kind of keep track of them while you're stitching. This would be great to put into your project bags. I know I used to use a smaller one of these when I first learned how to cross stitch years and years ago, and I still have that board. Even though nothing will stick to it anymore, it lost its magnetization, but I still have it. I remember using it all the time. And so this definitely would be really, really helpful, especially if you have your chart sitting in your lap or you prop it up. Mine's usually attached to my cross stitch. But occasionally I do wish I had like a little board or something where I could set my my scissors, or even like the guide for my cross stitch. So this would be a great, great tool. The next item is called Alpha Clippies. These are specialty marking clips. If you have the Alpha Bitties, it's very similar to that. So they're numbered and lettered. So when you're cutting out your quilt, you could take one of these and attach it to the fabric that you've cut out for a specific part of your quilt block. So they would be a great quilting tool. And then I left this one in the bag it came in. This is Big Daisy Project Bag. So super huge. I have a couple of quilters that bring me their quilts to Long Arm, and they'll put their quilts in one of these. Definitely roomy. You can fit a lot of cool stuff in there, you know, if you're going to a retreat. I love these bags. I have several, and even the smaller project bags, and I love them. I use them all the time. So thank you so very much to the Fat Quarter Shop for sending those items my way. And again, I will put a link to the Fat Quarter Shop down below. And the package came from Carol, and she sent me a lovely card, and inside was a wonderful note. And thank you so very much, Carol, for your note. I appreciated it so, so much. But she gifted me a Fat Quarter bundle of Cheddar Blues by Connecting Threads. And you know that if you've watched my video for any length of time, you know I have a love affair of indigo and cheddars especially. So this is just such a beautiful fabric line. I'm pretty positive I know what quilt I want to make with it. I think it would be perfect. It's just the right, perfect, that wonderful color of indigo and cheddar together. I just love it. But thank you so very much, Carol. It was so sweet of you to send that my way. And again, I can't tell you how much your note meant to me. I've been feeling a little, because my job is like very customer service and just, I don't know what it is, what's going on. But a lot of times people just come in and they're not very nice and they take it out on you. And even sometimes I'll get messages that just are not nice and totally unnecessary, and it just kind of makes me want to just take a big giant step back from everything. And so that note meant the world to me because, you know, I know that the negativity is like a pin drop compared to how wonderful everybody has been to me all through the years. And I can't tell you how much your note meant to me. So thank you so very much. I appreciate it. And I can't wait to make that quilt, but it's applique, so I have to wait until my Raven quilt's done. But I know the quilt it's going into, and I can't wait. So thank you so very much, Carol. Okay, one last little bit of business that I completely forgot to talk about, and that is the quilt hanging up behind me. It is called the Spangled Quilt by Kim Deal. I love this quilt so very much. It's one of my favorites. The colors in this quilt are just so perfect for this time of year. I love it. Just sort of that transition between the 4th of July as we go into summer and as we enter those early months of autumn. It's just perfect. And I love having it out. I love seeing it every day. I love it. I know the pattern is still available. The fabric line you might have to hunt for, but I really feel with Kim Deal quilts, every single one of her fabric lines play so well together that quite honestly, you could just get bits and pieces of every fabric line and put a quilt together, this one in particular, and it would look spectacular. So Spangled Quilt, put information about it down below. I do not know if you can get it as a kit anymore. That was a couple of years ago that I got it for Mother's Day, so I would highly doubt it, but you never know. Well, friends, that brings me to the end of today's video. And if you've stuck around for this length of time, thank you so very much. I do so very greatly appreciate the time you take out of your day to hang out with me. Thank you, thank you. The plan for me, I promise I will be back in October. It'll be beginning of October. Not sure exactly which one of the Saturdays it will be. It just kind of depends. My work schedule is going to change starting next weekend. The Harvest Festival will be beginning, and so I work Wednesday through Sunday, so that just gives me Monday and Tuesday off to record a video, and also to change all of this out and turn it into Halloween, which I'm dying to do, but I'm forcing myself to wait until the solstice. But I'm going to try my best. Promise I will be back in October, and then of course November and December. It's my favorite time of the year. I love making videos this time of year. I love seeing everything swap out and the change in the seasons. I love it all, and I'm looking forward to it. So I promise I will be back the beginning of October. If you have any questions about today's video, please feel free to leave them down below, and anything that I've shown and shared I will list down below in the description box if you are at all interested. If you would like to see what I'm up to in between my videos, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm Pumpkin Hollow Quilts, or I do have a Facebook page called Pumpkin Hollow Quilting, and I'll put a link to both of those places down below in the description box. Once again, thank you so very much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you next time. Bye.